Want to say a very special morning to everyone gathered on the bridge. You know that we are here just because of you. Only because of you. Want to say a very special morning to Team Untengle, always there and very highly appreciated. See me. So let's get right into the interview. Before we start getting into the meat of the interview, though, let me ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from Western Jamaica, so tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you were raised and all of that.
All right, so, okay, my name is Jamila. I'm from the best parish in Jamaica.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, I grew up with my father and my mother and my little sister. I went to the Mount Alvernia High School, and after the Mount Alvernia High School, I went to the Montego Bay Community College. And at this moment, I'm in Cuba. I'm studying medicine, you know, and I like to consider myself as an introverted extrovert because I love my own company. I strive in my own company, but I'm very outgoing. I'm also very expressive.
Okay.
You know, and yes.
You know, I was going to ask you that question, you know, Jamila. I was going to ask you to describe who an introverted extrovert is, but you just did.
Because I only recharge when I'm by myself. I cannot recharge when I'm around people. So I talk to people. I'm expressive. I'm not afraid to be outgoing, you know, but I need time by myself to recharge and then go again to interact with people.
Not a problem at all. You know what we realize though, Jamila? We realize that there are some people like that. There are some people who can take, you know, people that bridge them current morning, noon and night. It don't seem to bother them. But then there are others who have to recharge in order to, you know, to deal with people. So you're just one of them. All right. So I got that.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk. I saw your bio and I'm not going to talk about the fact that you love to eat. I'm going to skip over that part and then, unless of course you want to talk about that. Why that come up? I saw you love eat, sir.
I do.
Jamila says I do. All right, Jamila. I won't put you on the spot. All right. So you were raised by your mom and your dad, and then very early in your life, you lost your mom. So I'm going to ask you very briefly to tell us about the memories that you have with your mom, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
Yes, okay. So as much as possible, I try to keep the memories alive because I know that, you know, as you get older, you tend to forget, you know, so I just remember my mother as somebody who was, you know, God-fearing. I was very close with her. I was always around her. You know, I remember being comfortable talking to her about anything, and anywhere she was going, she would carry me with her, you know, so we were inseparable in a sense, you know, and she would, you know, she will talk to me and guide me and help me, you know. It wasn't a lot, you know, but it is what I hold on to.
Right. Because you were quite young when she passed, right?
Yes.
All right. So I understand that. Because she would have been talking to what? A 10-year-old child?
No, I was 11 when she passed.
Okay. Right.
Yes.
So she would have been talking to an 11-year-old child. So that would be limiting in a way because that's really just what you would. Yeah, I got that. All right. So she left your dad and your younger sister. So it means that or tell me what that means. Did you have to play a role for your younger sister? Because I know that must have been quite traumatic for everybody.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, I was saying that your mom left you when you were 11, but you also had a younger sister. So it must have been a traumatic experience for you and your younger sister. What role did you have to play after your mom died for your younger sister?
Well, before my mother passed, because the thing is, she knew she was going to pass, so she tried as much as possible to prepare, to prepare me for it, I never thought that she was going to pass. So she would tell me, Jamila, ensure that you take care of your sister, ensure that you stay with God, that sort of thing. And she'll tell me that, little by little, she'll tell me repeatedly. So I tried to be that role model for my sister. It was difficult though, because she has her own personality, and I felt that I had to tell her what to do and stuff like that, so the adjustment was very difficult.
I can imagine. All right, so let's talk about your dad, because I've heard stories of your dad being an exemplary parent. How did your dad do as a single parent?
Yes. My father, he tries very hard, and he has done a very good job with us, and he's continuing to do a very good job with us. I remember, well, he knew as well. I figured he knew, because I remember when we were in the car and he told us, he was talking to me and he said, look, whatever happens, you don't have to worry, because, I'll always be there for you and your sister, and we'll do things normally, we'll go out as a family, that sort of thing. So nothing will change much, and I'll ensure that, you get to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for him too, because he's a taxi driver, and he has to be on the road, and you have 2 little girls to raise.
Yes.
I'm sure that was scary for him, but he said, look here, these are my girls. And I remember asking him, what did mommy say anything to him before she passed?
Yes.
Was she worried? And he said that no, mommy wasn't worried. She told him actually that she knew the type of person he was, so she wasn't worried about what would have happened to her kids.
Oh, that's so beautiful. In a society that the men get so much flack for not being good fathers, we really have to use the opportunity to bless up your father. What's his name?
Yes.
What's your father's name, if you don't mind me asking?
My father's name?
Yes.
Leroy Brown, but most persons know him as Dave or Black Conscious. I know he's listening now. So.
Yes, good. I'm happy he's listening now. So Black Conscious, we just want to send out love and respect for you being the kind of father that you have been under such difficult circumstances. What we keep saying, Jamila, is that most people hear the story of someone who has lost their life because of cancer, or someone who has survived. But we don't often hear the story of people like you and your sister and your father who had to survive after a loved one lost their life. So I know you talk about your resilience a lot, and you mention often that, I've read your bio. So you've mentioned that, you're a very resilient individual. Did you always want to study medicine?
I always wanted to. I just knew I wanted to study medicine, but it became cemented in me, when my mother passed.
Yes.
Because that is what she had in mind, Jamila says she wants to study medicine, that sort of thing. She even envisioned it before I did.
Wow.
She was even the one who, I remember when I was young, and she says, oh, you can go to Cuba to study medicine.
Really?
And I said, I can't go to Cuba because I'll have to learn Spanish and stuff like that. And she says, yes, you can, you learn. So seeing that she had that in mind and she actually said it to me.
Wow.
at a young age, and to seeing that happening now is, you know.
Amazing. So did you actually learn
Yes.
Spanish before you went to Cuba to study?
Yes, I did. I did C-Sec Spanish, but let me tell you, it's when you're thrown into a culture, everything that I learned about Spanish in C-Sec in Jamaica, it, I couldn't compare it with here. You know, I had to relearn because it's like, you know, you have patois in Jamaica and you have English. It's like you have a Cuban patois, or, you know.
I hear you. It's like somebody
Right,
learning
so-
patois and coming to Jamaica and say, all right, me know patois now, so
Right.
how hold the door? And we're like, what?
Exactly.
I get
So
it.
you have to be immersed in the culture
Yes,
to
yes.
get it, and, you know.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Which is what you're doing here now.
Yes.
Nice. All right, fine. So Cuba is known, well, it's well known for having an excellent medical program. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
Since you've been studying there, do you find this to be true?
I didn't get that. Sorry.
Yeah, we said that Cuba is known to have an excellent medical program. Since you've been studying medicine there, have you found that to be true?
It is true, and it is true because with my experience, the doctors there, they really include the students, you know, and you learn a lot because in comparison with other medical schools, we start interacting with patients as close as first year.
Wow.
You know, so we'll go out into the community. You know, Cubans have what they call like different consultants where, you know, persons in the community will go, you know, so you interact with patients, you know, so it's hands-on.
Right. I got you. Loud and clear.
Right, it's-
More than
right.
another medical faculty would have in a different culture.
What was that?
I said,
Sorry, I'm not hearing clearly.
okay, I was saying that you find that the faculty of medicine in Cuba is a more hands-on
Yes.
approach than the average medical faculty
Yes, it
elsewhere.
is.
All right, fine. So I don't
Yes.
I don't have to ask if you're fitting in because it's obvious that you are. So before that, we spoke
Yes.
about your experience teaching you resilience. What else has the experience that you've been through? What else has it taught you?
It taught me discipline, and it taught me to be very assertive. Right? Discipline in the sense, okay, when my mother passed, I knew that I knew that my life was not an ordinary life. It won't be an ordinary life. Right? Because then it came to my realization that, look, Jamila, this is your future now. You're going to have to make decisions that will help you to move forward in life. Your father not rich, right? You have a little sister depending on you, so you have to know move in a particular way that will ensure that you are not a product of your circumstances.
Right.
You understand?
I do. Yes, I do.
So it really, it's a lot of discipline and stuff like that, you know, and things that I wanted to do as a child. So, you know, I don't even know how to explain it, but I couldn't do everything that everybody else was doing.
Right.
You
There were
know, I had
restraints,
to
yes.
understand that. I had to understand that, look here, Jamila, this is the route now that you have to take. Yes.
How is your little sister doing? I'm sure she's not that little anymore, but how is your younger sister doing?
Well, she's doing good. She's in university now.
Nice. Where? In Jamaica?
Yeah, she's in Jamaica.
Okay, wonderful. All right. As a woman, one who lost her mother to breast cancer, as a student, doctor, what advice would you give to women about this disease? cancer, particularly breast cancer?
I think the best thing that one can do is self-examination. It's one of the most important things that one can do, because the first clinical sign really is a woman feeling a lump,
Right.
on her breast, and she might feel concerned. So I advise every woman to start as early as 15, to start inspecting, to see if they see any irregularities. And once you find an irregularity, you go to the doctor and you follow the test and the procedures that you have to do.
Right.
Because cancer is not a death sentence.
Right. And you're saying this as a doctor,
Right.
or as a student doctor?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the key is really early detection.
Right. Early detection.
Right. As women, I think what we really need to be doing is just putting it in our daily practice. We bathe every day, so every time we shower or every time we're drying off, we just make the check, and we do it as a daily practice.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Your one of your favorite quotations is that I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And that quotation comes from Maya Angelou. Tell us why it is so special, this quotation, to you.
Because I remember as when my mother passed, I mean, a lot of persons had worries. Oh, what is going to happen to the girls? Who is going to take care of them? How are they going to turn out to be? And I was aware of that. And persons had their doubts. And there are lots of complications that happens when you're young as well, and you don't have that mother figure in your life.
Right.
At one point I was saying to my father that sometimes I feel so unprotected, because I feel as if life is just at me. It's just at me, and I have to try to not get down or get too depressed, but to move on or to confront the complications of life.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, I've been through a lot of things, but it's your mindset, and it changes you. It can change you for the better, and it can change you for the worse, right? And I think they have changed me for the better.
Well, this is a wonderful story. It really is, because it could have changed you for the worse. You could have had a dad who is not like Leroy, so bless him up again.
Right.
And your sister is
Yes.
doing very well. So it is clear to me that you know exactly who your guardian angel is, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Wonderful talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Yes, I just like to. I can big up my daddy again.
You can big him up all day.
Hi, daddy, big up yourself. Love you. And I want to thank everybody who has been on the journey with me. Big up to my church family, Harrison Seventh-day Adventist Church. Love you guys. Big up to my friends. Thank you for being with me.
Wonderful. So when you graduate, are you coming back to Jamaica? I said final question, but are you coming back to Jamaica?
I'll be back.
Nice.
I have to be back.
Nice.
Yes.
We need doctors with compassion, and I am sure you're
Yes.
going to be one of them. So we need you back here. All right?
Yes, yes.
All right. Have yourself a wonderful day, and thank you so much for having this conversation
Thank
with
you
us.
for having me.
You're most welcome. Okay, wonderful. So that was a wonderful conversation. And for those who are not aware, October is Breast Cancer Month, and we often hear about the survivors of breast cancer or those who have lost their lives to breast cancer. But it was wonderful for us to have this conversation with Jamila, because oftentimes those who have lost their lives to breast cancer leave behind children. And so it was wonderful talking to Jamila as one of the survivors of someone who lost her mom. And I'm sure Jamila would want me to bless up her dad again. So bless up yourself, Mr. Brown, and continue to be the man that you are. We're going to take a break. Beau-Regard, as soon as you're there, you just let me know.
I'm here, Mama Kelly, I'm here.
You sound like you did a long time.
No, I'm there, just about a minute now.
Okay. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mama Kelly. How are you doing? I'm doing great.
I'm doing very well too. Give God thanks.
Yes, it was a wonderful weekend, I must say.
Your weekend them always wonderful. No.
I can't complain. If me don't complain, then it would not do too much.
Lafayette's a peer party. Come remember say, them you want no Lafayette. Him want my weekend them for match up the film, and it pales by comparison.
No, Mama Kelly, no. I know that your weekends are way more interesting than mine.
Oh yeah, right. Right. You want me to start to tell you? Oh my God.
Man, I had a wonderful time. Over the weekend, I had a party on Saturday night, an all-black affair, which I call Black is Beautiful. Myself and a team member here in New York City, the car guy, Jamel. It was a wonderful event. Everybody came out in their black, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and we had a wonderful time.
Okay, as I heard the advertisement for it, and I really had to laugh. Because you're there with the Jamaica self, and you talk about all kind of Jamaica style, and then just 1-800 and I'm like, oh.
but Mama Kelly, what's funny that you said that on Friday I was listening to DJ Roy and Roddy G and Shells, and they were actually making fun of me also,
Really? What they were
talking
saying?
about, say it really take a lady like Mama Kelly to calm down Killaboo. Because he's this person who play the sound, and then when him come on the radio with Mama Kelly, he's so calm and collected and all of these things on him. The beer joke never make off of me the studio Friday. So I was there listening, and I was just laughing, and I said, look, oh God. I say, but
so you weren't there when they were going on? They might chat you behind your back?
No. But me not laugh, because me enjoy, because beer joke never get. So I was like, yeah, man, it's a good vibe. Mama Kelly alone.
Saying I want you to bless up DJ Roy for me, because I don't bless him up as often as I should,
Right.
Just bless him up for me. DJ Roy, if you're listening, just bless up yourself.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And I must say, Mama Kelly, once again, a lot of people that I saw over the weekend, they said to bless you up. Big up yourself. They love the connection. Once again, they tell me every Tuesday and Thursday, them have to tune in. Them can't miss Mama Kelly and Killaboo. So it's a great vibe you're getting from the people here in the United States. And I must say that I've been getting feedbacks from Jamaica, to big up all of the youths in Jamaica that tune in and listen, because they really do respect you, Mama Kelly.
They really do, but can I tell you something? Me have a complex, Me have a complex, very much so. Because you see the people this side, them listen, But you see, especially the youth them in the street, Mama, I love the program especially in the afternoon. And I'm like, so you don't listen. So, what I don't know. You don't listen from today. Yeah. More than I purchased the more beer things, and I'm like, okay, fine, I got it.
Yeah, man. So it's a good vibe. It's a good energy.
Yes, it is.
And then the week started off yesterday with what they would normally call Columbus Day. Which is widely celebrated across the United States. Same way, it's only 12 states that do not celebrate the day. It's been a lot of controversy surrounding the whole Christopher Columbus thing. We even saw it come to light during the George Floyd protest, where a lot of the Christopher Columbus statues were coming down around the country and things of that nature. And people are really trying to replace it with Indigenous Peoples Day, with the fact being that Christopher Columbus is widely to be blamed for, the Holocaust of millions of Indigenous people across the world. Mm-hmm. So, they're trying to replace it with that. It's celebrated in about 10 states right now, officially. and about 100 cities other than that celebrate it across the United States. So it's a big thing. They even had a celebration here in New York yesterday on Randall's Island. It was a 2-day celebration, and that was a great outcome as well. So
how do indigenous people deal with that?
It's more about their ancestry, and just celebrating what their people have gone through and the outcome that they're going through right now, their history, trying to erase some of the myth that has been told in the history books about Christopher Columbus being the person who discovered the Americas and things of that nature, even though Christopher Columbus never steps foot on soil in America.
But I mean, culture described it so very well. I mean, culture described the fact that, or the myth that Christopher Columbus discovered Jamaica. Him say the man will discover the place, come find people, cook and eat and a plant and do all kind of
for them food and water and all kind of
all them something there.
And so on a Thursday.
You understand me? Yeah, me come for discover, A sure thing, big joke.
But even though he never stepped foot in America, Mama Kelly, is about 6,000 public references to him across the country, in terms of schools and roads and buildings and statues and things of that nature. So
you see why we have to re-examine our system of education and what we're actually teaching children, because a lot of the curriculum, not just here in Jamaica, but as you talk about the States, is just propaganda, straight propaganda, and we just buy into it and believe it and teach our children and our children's children, and it is just so wrong.
Yes, and we need to re-educate.
Yeah, man.
We definitely need to re-educate, because there's been a lot of misinformation.
But there has been so much misinformation generally that it still baffles me as to why we just take things as at face value. Why don't we investigate? Because there's so much that is wrong about what we have been taught. That why we just choose certain little things and just figure, say, that right, but that wrong. We have to be critical thinkers and really deeply investigate some of what we're being taught.
True indeed, Mama Kelly. And then there's the fact of students questioning teachers and professors, and they get in trouble for that as well.
All that.
Yeah, because some of them might say, no, that's not the answer. I know it to be different because I've learned different and I've done other research than what you're telling me, and sometimes they do get into a debate with teachers and it causes a problem. So some students might be afraid to go against the curriculum, and they just go along with it for the time being to pass the class sometimes.
I can identify with that. I remember being told. I remember being told that, especially in religious education, that I must really keep my opinions to myself, and ask. And, the gentleman who used to teach me, right, who tell me I'm a friend, them call me one aside and say, we disrupting the class. We disrupting the class because we ask you questions, sir. No, him is a big reverend here now. And every time he sees me, which is not very often, but every now and then he sees me, and he says to me, those questions that you used to ask me, I was not prepared to answer them then. Oh, wow. But you want to ask me them? you want to ask me them now? And I'm like, yeah, right.
So how
many detentions later? Please. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
This is something that was handed to me. LaFane is my producer, right?
Yes.
No, right? Okay.
Yes.
So when I say producer, it's a she.
Yes.
So this is something
Big
that was...
LaFane.
Yes. This was handed to me by LaFane a while ago. It says, President of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica, Stuart Jacobs, says the teaching and learning process in some schools is being compromised by gang activity. Mr. Jacobs says this is not something that schools are properly equipped to handle. At least one high school in the corporate area is on alert for a potential escalation of disputes among the students. This as the school in question is grappling with boys who are now arming themselves and forming gangs. This is allegedly happening in Spanish Town. And Mr. Jacobs says the schools which are anxious for a solution to the issue say gangs are using them as fertile recruitment grounds. He says a community approach is needed to solve the problem, which is a microcosm of the wider crime epidemic plaguing the society. We're in trouble in schools because the teachers not equipped to handle this at all, because a lot of these youngsters are just as tall and probably bigger than some of the teachers. male teachers, and male teachers just don't want to confront them at all on any level.
That is true. That is true. I don't even know where to start with this one, Mama Kelly, because there's so many things that we have to look at, in terms of if these people are not coming to school to get educated, then there should be some way in which they can be forcefully removed from the grounds of the school.
You see, I hear you, but that creates another issue, because if they're forcefully
I mean,
removed-
in terms of if you have to get the law involved to remove them, then do so.
No, I get that, Beau-Regard. But let us say this boy is 15 and he's forcefully removed from school. Where you think him a go? I can't him there, And now we're going to have him look for forcefully removing from, me don't know.
But if it reaches, if it's at the level now where no one can do anything, what else is going to be done?
I'm not sure if that is something. That's my point. If because these youngsters, they're already mixed up. Fine, something has to be done, but I'm not sure if just taking them out of the class is enough. I think there should be not remedial, but some kind of institution that deals specifically with these kids, troubled kids.
Yes, I agree with that, Mom. But I had reached the point to where you were saying that it seems as if the person who made that statement has already exhausted all possibilities in terms of what can be done.
That's the teachers, but the government has a responsibility to decide what to do with some of these youngsters.
Okay.
Because just like, for example, there were girls who were getting pregnant in school, and instead of just kicking them out of school to make them go get pregnant again and again, there's an institution there specifically for young ladies who get pregnant in school, and they are taught, they are given extra, they're given homework, the curriculum, they're taught this curriculum, and when them have them babies, there's a place where they can take care of their babies. In other words, I mean, just ostracizing or just kicking them out or just alienating, especially young people, don't make it, because the best of us or the worst of us as adults got so many chances. So if at 14 you're delinquent, it don't mean that at 20 you're going to be delinquent too. You can get a second chance, and you can make use of that chance. And a lot of our boys are delinquent for a reason. I mean, I'm not saying a good reason, but there's a reason there. And I have seen many of those same boys who are let me tell you something that a big man said to me the other day. He said to me that there's a man who was in his community. These are one-time gangsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a man in his community who himself and the man was in war because of political divide.
Mm-hmm.
He injured the man when he was a teenager fighting political war. The other day, he saw the brethren. They are now friends. He hugged the brethren, right? Gave the same brethren a hug, the same one who he injured. He felt the injury that he gave the man. He felt the injury when he hugged his brethren. That he gave the man, him stab up the man. He felt the injury that he same one gave the man. And while he was talking to me and telling me that, this adult man was almost in tears. He did it when he was a teenager, and he is so remorseful now.
Right.
So sometimes we need to create a space, especially in a society where those at the top are far from perfect and the system doesn't work.
I agree with you, Mama Kelly. I'm all for the youths with the second chances and whatever we can do to make sure that we set them on the right path. But after listening to what you had said, my first reaction was that the person who made the statement was saying that everything they had tried and nothing is working, they do not know what else to do. So I'm saying if these students are coming to these schools and taking over the schools with gang activity, and there's no one there that can do anything, you have to remove them and then do something with them, whatever that it is that you're going to do to get them into a program. But you have to get them away from the other students who are there to learn.
I got you, loud and clear. I agree 100%. All right, let's take a break. We soon come. Do we have Steppa on Zoom? Yes, we do. Steppa, where are you?
Greetings, blessed love, mama.
I see you, man. I see your pen. You're ready for them. So you know that we're streaming live to the tri-state. So Beau-Regard is also here with us.
Yeah, man, give thanks, Beau-Regard. More life blessings today, you know?
Yes, yeah, man, give thanks. Blessings, Bridget. Welcome.
Yeah, man.
All right. So for those who have just joined us, we actually invited Steppa to talk about the 24th annual Walter Rodney Lecture, which is happening this Friday, October 14 at the Neville Hall Lecture Theatre. So we'd ask you, Steppa, just to start off by informing those who don't know, who was this great Caribbean historian, politician, activist? Who was Walter Rodney?
Yeah, you know, our dear brother Walter Rodney was, first and foremost, we like to refer to him as a lecturer, you know, a professor, a doctoral student of history, African history. You know, he was known for his posts as lecturer of history all over the world, you know, African history, bringing the Africana vibration. He was a Guyanese, but he would have studied his undergraduate, he would have done his undergraduate work at the UMONA campus here in Jamaica. And he would have had a lot of history in Jamaica, you know, good and the bad and the ugly, all in between. He would have at some point in his life been banned from Jamaica, the shores of Jamaica. He is known to have published many works. Most popularly, a lot of people would know How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and also Groundings with My Brothers. His PhD thesis would have surrounded the Upper Guinea coast. He would study the trade in terms of the African space, in terms of the Upper Guinea coast. So Walter Rodney is known for his grassroots connections as a historian of African history, but also with how he would have connected to the masses globally and regionally in the Caribbean.
Right. I'm trying to remember what them call literature that is banned. What them call that again, Step? Because a lot of his work was banned. What do you call it again? It will come back.
A lot of his work was banned, but yeah, his work was banned, but he would have moved it so smoothly across the masses that, you know, when you ban things, people want to hear more about it as well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
People want to hear more about it, so people went in search of it, and he would have afforded he had the legacy of sharing it not only on campus, but he would have also been in the street sharing these messages that would have spread. You know?
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right.
You mentioned one of his greatest piece of work, which is How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. His account back then, is it relevant to today's Africa?
Most definitely, you know, because, you know, that is one of the most interesting things, you know, because Walter Rodney work having been done and released and published back in the 1960s, 1950s, 1970s, wherever it may be, before his death in 1980, still stands relevant, even to this day. You know, the context, his work really echoes itself, much as general principles and practices that, you know, we should look into. And we must remember that when we talk about Walter Rodney, we have to kind of place him in a trajectory of resistance in terms of set by the most honorable Marcus Garvey, you know. So he really is a flame in a fire lit and continuing in terms of our Caribbean revolutionary space, you know. Definitely.
He definitely was a man for the people. The research that I've done, I saw that he was a man for the people, but more so for the working people. Tell us about his passion for the working people.
Yeah, I remember Walter Rodney would have recognized, you know, his heavy on black consciousness. At the time, you have to remember that in 1968, when he was banned from re-entering Jamaica on October 15 by the Prime Minister then, Hugh Shearer-led government, he would have been banned that time. For what? For reasons, because he had been a part of a black revolution. If you remember the year 1968, Vietnam War, you're looking at Martin Luther King being assassinated, 1968. You're looking at Robert F. Kennedy, senator assassinated some 5 years earlier. And the working masses and the black masses were whom Walter Rodney sought to connect with. So when a lot of people you reason with, a lot of the elders, they will tell you that when Rodney leave UMONA campus evening time, him really make a trot down to, McGregor Gully, or him go down at the Dongle, because him used to have classes. So the same classes where you go get on campus, you could have come get it in the community on a street side university level, and I think that would have bothered a lot of people.
But my whole things have changed though, because remembering campus back in the day, as you said, stepping in the 60s and 70s, and I distinctly remember those days that the revolutionary minds of the people on campus was transferred to even those of us in high school, and we would understand who Walter Rodney was, understand the struggle, and at some level as best as possible participate. What changed?
Yes. You know what changed, Mama? And I've been thinking about it, And when I look at it, you know what has changed? What has changed is the time has allowed for the systems of Babylon that exist to be better able to silence, quiet, bring countermeasures to kind of dissolve that embodiment of oneness.
Yes.
So time, because remember in the 60s, we're coming out of, you have the Paul Bogle riots would have gone, and we're still in a time of just get independence, or what them refer to as independence. So it was a fresh platter, knowing how to maneuver it. From 1960 to now, the system has better been able to mentally castrate the minds of the ones,
Yes.
So equally, the ones them have to stand up even stronger to be able to persevere amidst, what is happening. So I think it's better control.
Yes.
I don't think, it's really that. It's better control, and we have to become clear and recognize that and be able to better control our own destiny.
Absolutely. I think there were more critical thinkers then. I'm not suggesting that there's not that now, but I take your point. It's just that having gone through all of that in the 60s and 70s, the society understands now how to quell that kind of uprising. And that is what we are seeing right now. The word I was looking for is subversive. Subversive literature.
Okay.
And a lot of that was happening then. And I would like to read some subversive literature now, because not subversive again.
Let me tell you what I go on now. And when you look at it, because you see Walter Rodney's work called Groundings with My Brothers.
Yes.
And see me have it here.
Yes.
And I tell people, say, this book, it's very thin, I'm going to see my camera kind of shady. It's very thin, but it's a very compact book. You see, in that book, Rodney would have spoken because he would have been banned previously by the government and such. Mm-hmm. He spoke definitively to the black masses, the politicians, and the intellectuals.
Yes.
Rodney's word, a lot of it was to the intellectuals to say, listen, man, stop acting fools, with your degrees, this is my quote unquote, and get onto action. Mm-hmm. So he would have said, and the book is very powerful, There's a part in the book when he said, the present government knows that Jamaica is a black man's country. That is why Garvey has been made a national hero, for they are trying to deceive black people into thinking that the government is with them. It's very profound, and that is not me, it's Walter Rodney's words that,
Steppa, was this written before or after he was banned from Jamaica?
These were lectures that were in around that time. So it's a compilation of the lectures. So it was written before, and then there were some written after, especially the closing chapters of the book.
Very
powerful.
And what would be the main reason why he was banned from Jamaica?
Because of his connections with the Black Revolution. So he had gone to a revolutionary conference in Montreal, Canada, it was a black writers conference that he would have visited. So he would have kind of visited a subversive literature conference, because the content at that time was that he was bringing and researching was not comfortable to the ruling classes. It would have kind of stirred up the black emotion in the state, at the time. And it was seen that, boy, this man has a problem, So Shearer and his government at the time said, listen, let's revoke his post in the history department on Mona campus. And as you know, that would have caused riots, what people know in this time to be the Rodney riots.
Yes.
It was a serious time, Because remember, me no born them time they read, me come read it, and me come hear from my elders, I would have listened to whatever planner telling me about these things,
Yes.
other individuals on campus, etc. It was serious, and as you would have said, it would have not involved. It's not Walter Rodney get up and say run up and down, It was students at the time.
Yes.
Students on campus, masses in communities, because they said, wow, what is this? How can you ban Walter Rodney? Yeah, man.
Let me ask you this, Steph. Okay, so we're celebrating the 24th annual Walter Rodney lecture. Walter Rodney was murdered. And he was murdered.
Yes, he was assassinated.
He was assassinated.
On Bent Street in 1980 in his home country.
Right.
That
he was
wanted
assassinated.
so much to return to.
He was assassinated. Well, all assassinations are questionable, but this particular assassination is even more questionable. And I want to ask you this. When you gather on campus to talk about Walter Rodney, does his assassination come up? And does and the what should I call them now? The scholars who gather on campus, is it analyzed by them? Because there's a school of thought that his assassination involved scholarly people.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around his assassination, because it came from high levels based on what he would have learned and the literature and what people know. It was a highly political strategy, to assassinate Walter Rodney. And I just want to say this, that remember that Walter Rodney would have applied for posts at university in Guyana, even at the high school level, to try to get employment. His own country would not employ him at the time to get any work. So he had to, rely on guest lectures and fellowships in universities across different spaces. And it's so ironic that he would have been traveling to spaces that are key Babylonian spaces,
Yes.
And doing these lectures, but he couldn't go in his own home country. And he would have been banned from Jamaica, which, as you know, Jamaica is a rich space for revolution. So the assassination is known to many as a direct attack on silencing the black voice, and not only just the black voice. Walter Rodney must be looked at as a strategist. If you look at his works now, and especially in the lecture that I'll be bringing forth, some of it is not really to deal with talking about Rodney and talking about what he has written. I think people can go read it themselves. It's really at this time to bring it off the paper into practical things for now, and how the words then still relate to now. Somewhat of a way to track our own progress as a people.
Absolutely.
Because if a man were right from 1960 about some serious governance problems in our country, and they still now exist, we need to be checking ourselves.
That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Steppa, at the time of his assassination, how much involved was he in politics?
You know what, Rodney, you see, politics is a thing we involve y'all if you're not in a politics. Everything is a politics to it. So what happened, and especially in a them time there, from the 60s, 70s, coming into the 80s, the revolutionary mindset and the intellectual thought was very much valued, and a lot of intellectual researches and stuff would have fed political strategies you know, because new nations trying to evolve. So I would say, based on his researches, his beliefs, his actions and stuff, he would have been very much a threat in the reality of the political climate of the time, not only in Guyana, but the region and the world and beyond.
I get what you're saying. I read where it said that some of the things that he was trying to get for the people of the country, they were not getting from the government. So he had formed his own party, something like the Working People's something or another. WP something, and it became a threat to the opposition, to the government, because he had gained so much followers in the country.
We're going to take a break before
Most
you
definitely.
answer.
So,
all right, Steppa, answer that, and then we take a break.
yeah, man, most definitely, man. And it's kind of similar to Garvey's trajectory of the People's Political Party, because we recognize, you know, it's the political parties and the political space that will do policies that will guide our existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. We're soon forward. And Steppa, we want to note also that the book, hold on a little bit. The book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, was published in 1972. So we're also celebrating 50 years of the publishing of Walter Rodney's book. So we just wanted to note that.
Very powerful book.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. I remember when I read that book, I didn't really look at it as how Europe underdeveloped Africa. I looked at it as how Europe developed Africa. Because that is really what Rodney would have shown us in that body of work, you know. Very potent work that still stands now, you know.
Explain that.
Yeah, because in the book itself, you know, if I am to kind of just give a kind of summary overview of it, it really delves into the economics, the day-by-day economics of what the slave trade and the connections between the continent and Europe at the time would have afforded the development. So for an example from it would have shown how the slave trade and African connection would have developed the ports and the shipping systems of Europe. You know?
Oh, I get you.
It wasn't really that massive, you know.
Okay.
How it would have engaged in the different movements of human beings, and how it would have moved in the different movements of natural resources, etc.
So it's more how the slave trade developed Europe rather than underdeveloped.
Definitely.
I got you.
Yeah, man. So the title is what it is, but when you read into it, you really see that, wow, Europe was developed on the backbone of Africa.
Yes.
You know what I say?
Yes.
Yeah, of enslaved people.
Right.
Yeah, you know?
Final question, because my final question, Beau-Regard will have his final question. So we're having this lecture, and you are a guest speaker. What form will this lecture take? Is it going to be interactive, or are we just going to sit down and hear somebody talk?
Well, I mean, it will take on interactions. I mean, there's a section that allows for question and answer and discussions within it, you know. I think very much I'll be probably allowed to, you know, deliver the lecture, and then we will have much massive discussion. Okay. And I want to just, and that is the approach of the Institute of Caribbean Studies on campus. You know, it allows for that level of interaction. Definitely, man. Rodney lectures are always vibrant. You know?
I can imagine.
Yeah, man. People coming out. I know that there'll be a panel coming out to see what's up, and you know, it's sort of my own return to campus. I haven't been on the campus in a while, doing any form of formal presentation. So, you know, it's really a prodigalic return for I, you know?
I hear you.
Steppa, tell us about the title, the theme of the lecture this Friday, Reclamation Groundation.
Yeah, man, what I call Reclamation Groundation. It really is connected to my own unsubmitted PhD thesis I've had for some years, which really functions on reclamation. I deal with reclamation as a point of action. I would have dealt with reclamation through music, how we reclaim ourselves, how we reinvigorate ourselves, how we complete the emancipation process based on what Erna Bradbury would have said. So it is really trying to reclaim the groundation strategies and teachings left and presented by our goodly brother Rodney, particularly in the context of the book, Groundings with My Brothers. So I am not delving far from this book. This is really what I'll be focusing on, because it really is the strategy that we ought to look at, and it is a connection to all his other works and how we should connect them to everyday behavior. So I'll be looking at very much rolling out a strategy for the present state, the present day Jamaica, the present day kind of region and ways how we can go. So it's really reclaiming the groundation set by our dear brother, Dr. Walter Rodney.
Very interesting. You said something earlier, Steppa, about the fact that it is our political representative that really set the principles on which we have to live. And it makes us wonder how relevant or how much these conversations impact on government and governance.
Yeah. And that is why we have to publish works and books, because we come recognize a lot of these things are left to policy and left to a one and them political party if you decide and scratch them head and feel like if them to look at it. I think if you even look at how reparation is dealt with, we have a solid council of learned men and women, but then it all is left up to a government to decide.
Exactly.
But so personally, when I look at it, I really don't see any revolution coming through any formal system of government for I and I people. It would really be a facade for I to sit and say the government can really bring that freedom for the masses, when the government has always been a representation of the mimic government of the imperialist system.
Absolutely.
So,
we can't break free from the Queen.
Polite violence. We have to just play polite violence and be strategic hypocrites and grin and shake on when we see them. But we know that there's nothing really revolutionary happening that impacts the general well-being of the people,
we had a conversation over the weekend about just that, and I'm really hoping that this lecture can go into that as to how do we create this revolution, because it seems as though it is impossible. It's like them shekel way based upon the systems and the laws and all of that. It's as though the revolution is really a myth.
We have to, I think in many ways we have to kind of apply a strategy when we call there's a work called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. It's very important that we learn the strategies and still keep on the fight, because the systems of the neo-colonial order have long been set. They continue, and they find amongst us our brilliant people, and then take them over, as Rodney would have said, with a nice house and a car and a front lawn and good insurance. And when we have that, life is nice.
And then make sure so we really need that, because it's not available nowhere else.
What I'm saying? And I want to say this too, so when we talk about the inefficiencies of government per se, we also have to look at the inefficiencies in the masses. Because I don't like people to think say a government alone bring the solution or bring the problem. So the people them have some series of problems that they continue to exhibit, and they go in circle with these type of behaviors and become puppets to the system. So that's really a part of what we need to address as well.
Well said.
So, man. So I hope the lecture really brings out a lot of them type of reason there. If people know who I am, some may know, some may not. It's really the revolution, and there's a part in the book I wanted to make mention of before I go, and it's really for Beau-Regard side of the world. In the book, he would have said, and I'm just pulling this one little piece, he said, violence in the American situation is inescapable. White society is violent, white American society is particularly violent, and white American society is especially violent towards blacks. This will continue if things are not done. So, and it goes on to say a lot of other things. But what I'm saying, I wanted to share it because this was from 1960, and we.
and we see some of them trends, some of those trends still take place today in 2022.
Yes. So, just to highlight the potent relevancy of a Walter Rodney from that time till this time.
Will the lecture be on Zoom to facilitate the people on Beau-Regard side too?
Yeah, man. I have spoken to the institute because a lot of people have been reaching out. So we just are waiting for that information to share it. Where ones can stay connected and keep connected.
All right,
give thanks.
We're going to come out now, but Beau-Regard and I were talking about gang activity in schools, and it seemed as though the only thing for us to do would be to just take these gang members out of the schools, and then what? And I'm sorry that we don't have enough time because you're a community man, so I would really have loved to ask you, then what? Having taken these young people out of schools, this would really help to help the conversation Beau-Regard and I were having. Having taken these young people out of that space, then what? And it was someone like you.
I heard it. I heard the conversation. So I'm listening. I'm here where Beau-Regard say, I'm here where you are saying, about the police coming in and things. But you know what? A lot of investment need to be done more into grassroots social programs.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of connections that have been done in the system. So it have to go do another mapping and we can reason about it. But it is so sad that it is the underbelly of ourselves that have become the overbelly.
Oh my
and that
goodness.
is really the problem now.
Oh my goodness. And we're going to leave you on that. Beau-Regard, your last question.
No, I have no more questions. Steppa, bless up yourself, and a lot of people on this side have been educated and they got a good amount of information, and I'm sure they'll go to look for more information on Dr. Walter Rodney.
Blessings.
Thank you very much, my brother, and good luck with the lecture this Friday.
Yeah, right. Give thanks to the eye, man, and blessings to the whole of the tri-state and everyone on one, more life and prosperity.
All right.
Yes,
wonderful. So, wonderful conversation. We're talking about the 24th annual Walter Rodney Lecture. It's going to be this Friday, October 14th. It's at the Neville Hall Lecture Theatre. And we just had a conversation with the guest speaker for the event, Ras Miguel Steppa Williams, lecturer, consultant, and dub poet. And this is how we say so long. We certainly hope you enjoyed the conversations.
Mama Kelly.
Yes.
Before we say so long, we also have to say a happy anniversary going out to Mr. Robert Clark and Miss Cynthia Sri Clark, who are celebrating an anniversary today.
Oh, congratulations to them both.
Yeah, man, definitely. And I have a song here that I would love to play for them if you would allow me, because this was their wedding song.
We are informed, man. You know the people in business, hop and dog.